The world is mourning the loss of President Russell M. Nelson, the 17th president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who passed away peacefully at his home in Salt Lake City on Saturday, September 27, 2025, at the remarkable age of 101. His death marks the end of an era, closing the final chapter of a life defined by faith, healing, service, and an unwavering devotion to both God and humanity. The announcement of his passing sent shockwaves throughout the Latter-day Saint community and beyond. The church called him a beloved prophet, while tributes poured in from global leaders, medical professionals, faith communities, and millions of church members who looked to him as a spiritual father. Among the many voices was that of former U.S. President Donald Trump, who shared a moving tribute, honoring Nelson's dual legacy as both a pioneering heart surgeon and a spiritual leader whose ministry touched millions. Russell was sharp and engaged in service up until the end, Trump wrote on X, through White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Our hearts and prayers are with his incredible wife, Wendy, his 10 children, 57 grandchildren, and more than 116 great-grandchildren, as well as members of the church all over our country. Russell had a remarkable life, pioneering life-saving heart surgery techniques, and of course his ministry of many decades. He was a physician, literally and spiritually, and will be greatly missed. It was a sentiment shared across the nation. Early life, humble beginnings. In Utah. Russell Marion Nelson was born on September 9, 1924, in Salt Lake City, Utah, to Marion C. and Edna Anderson Nelson. The second of 4 children, he grew up during the Great Depression, a time when faith, family, and resilience were more necessity than choice. Though his parents were not deeply religious during his youth, Nelson later credited his spiritual awakening to both personal searching and the example of others around him. By the time he was a teenager, he was not only excelling academically, but also developing a quiet but determined sense of purpose. After graduating from high school at just 16, Nelson pursued medicine, a field that would become his first great calling. His brilliance was evident early on. He graduated first in his class from the University of Utah Medical School in 1947, at only 22 years old. The surgeon who changed the world. Nelson's medical career was nothing short of groundbreaking. He joined a pioneering research team dedicated to developing the artificial heart-lung machine, an innovation that would make open-heart surgery possible. In 1955, Nelson performed Utah's first open-heart surgery using the machine, a procedure that not only saved lives but also placed him at the forefront of medical history. Over the course of his career, Nelson performed more than 7,000 surgeries. Patients often described his precision, skill, and compassion in equal measure. Colleagues called him a Renaissance man for his ability to balance intense scientific innovation with empathy and humility. But even at the height of his medical career, Nelson's life took a different direction, one guided not by scalpels in operating rooms, but by faith and prophetic calling. From surgeon to apostle. In April 1984, Nelson was sustained as a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. For many, it was a surprise. How could a world-renowned surgeon leave behind a thriving career? For Nelson, however, there was no hesitation. "I didn't even ask President Gordon B. Hinckley, are you sure?" he later recalled. "My faith is just that profound and simple. When the Lord speaks through his prophet, my mind puts an exclamation point behind it, not a question mark." For the next 34 years, Nelson served faithfully as an apostle, traveling the world, teaching, and strengthening church members across continents. He visited dozens of countries, often speaking multiple languages to connect with people personally. His message was consistent: come unto Christ. Presidency of the Church. On January 14, 2018, at the age of 93, Russell M. Nelson was set apart as the 17th president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Despite his age, he brought energy, vision, and a relentless sense of urgency to his leadership. During his nearly 8-year ministry, he led the church into a new era of global expansion. He announced hundreds of new temples across every continent. He visited countries where no prophet had traveled before, including many in Africa and Asia, He urged members worldwide to use the full name of the church, emphasizing the centrality of Jesus Christ. He oversaw major changes to worship structure, including shorter Sunday meetings, a stronger focus on home-centered gospel study, and the launch of a new global youth program after ending the church's century-long partnership with the Boy Scouts of America. In his addresses, Nelson often spoke of joy. The secret to a life of joy, he declared at his 100th birthday General Conference in 2024, is to give your whole soul to Jesus Christ. Family and personal life. President Nelson's personal life was as full as his professional one. In 1945, he married Dancel White, with whom he had 9 daughters and 1 son. Their marriage lasted 6 decades until her passing in 2005. In 2006, Nelson married Wendy Watson, a Canadian nurse and educator who remained by his side until his final days. Together, they traveled extensively, serving church members and strengthening families across the globe. Nelson leaves behind not only his wife and 10 children, but also 57 grandchildren and 167 great-grandchildren. To them, he was not just a prophet, but a loving patriarch who balanced his global responsibilities with personal connection. Tributes from leaders. The tributes following Nelson's passing have been both emotional and wide-ranging. President Donald Trump called him a physician, literally and spiritually. Senator Mike Lee remembered his gentle wisdom and enduring faith. Governor Spencer Cox said Nelson's legacy transcends religion, teaching values of devotion, humility, and service. Senator John Curtis praised Nelson's global influence and described him as a leader whose warmth and faith touched millions. Church leaders worldwide echoed these sentiments, highlighting Nelson's ability to connect across cultures, languages, and ideologies. The final chapter. In his later years, Nelson often spoke of mortality with peace and hope. He once told church members, "The grave is not the end of existence. It is a necessary step in our eternal journey. What awaits us is joy beyond imagination if we are faithful." Those words feel especially poignant now as millions reflect on his passing. President Nelson will be remembered not only as a prophet, but as a healer of both body and soul. His contributions in medicine saved countless physical lives. His ministry pointed millions toward eternal life.